All right, cool. Stream shit at break really hard yesterday. Holy fuck. While I was recording or trying to get a minimal raylib binary setup going, I forgot an important function call. Two, actually. Begin drawing and end drawing. And the result of this was that when I compiled the program and I began, running it, because I've got hardware encoding set up on OBS, the GPU shat a break super hard. Something about raylib breaks very hard when you fail to call begin drawing before you actually do any sort of drawing routines. Similarly, there's a lot of stuff that you can't do until you call a init window. I didn't have that problem this time. However, one of the problems with C is, of course, error checking and error handling. And it would be very curious to dig into exactly why Ray's setup breaks that hard under certain conditions. Let's see here. Just getting a few things set up here before I begin. I want to be able to interact with the chat in text mode as well. Good. So I recently set my shit up so that, and actually I do need to put a Discord link up for you motherfuckers because I'm trying to build a community here. Like, there's a lot that we do here at Evil Dojo. There's a lot that I've done over the years, and there's a lot that I still want to do. We'll be fucking 40 next year. God damn. Which means I have to get in shape. I have to get certain things kind of on lock. And most importantly, I have to make my 40s better than my 30s and my 20s. Because those are supposed to be the years that like people really pop off and kind of get their life together and shit. And by the time you're 40, you're really supposed to have a lot of that stuff kind of locked down. And I do not. The my time in my 20s and 30s was spent kind of headed into dirt, trying to escape from life itself. And one of the big reasons for this is I had some very bad family problems that I was tangent to, and it made me very depressed. I've been depressed for a long time. And I go through waves of depression. But the gradient across the whole life is that I've been more depressed than not. And that's a bad thing. And you can't really fault someone for it because it's a chemical thing, right? But this isn't to say that I haven't tried to work on getting out of it, right? It's just a constant uphill struggle, especially when you're doing it kind of ad hoc, if you will. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna get it going. So let's get it going. Got a lot to do on the game. We got to see where it's at. Uh, let's see. I'll probably migrate to the couch here in a minute so I can sit next to my doggo. And we need to attach the game window. Okay. So this is 80 by 480, or sorry, 800 by 480, right? And the reason I do it like this is so I can do something like this. Because I'm able to stretch the render texture that I'm actually drawing everything to match the size of the window. So I can do this, and we're back to regular size. Now, one of the problems I face making things just feel clean with the text is that, from my perspective here, like size 10 font renders pretty good, but when you start to stretch things and when you use certain rendering functions, it doesn't look as good as it could. So one of the things I do is I apply a what does they call it, a bilinear filter to the rendering of the render texture in order to make things kind of look better. Like when I say better, I mean like ideally we keep everything so clean that like when I render it this size, like for instance, in order to achieve this, like right now, we're actually using a tri-linear filter. Um, I think point filtering is just like, what do you call it? Yeah, I see it. This looks cool, but the problem is when you render like this and you stretch, um, certain things may not appear super clean. Right here, it actually kind of does look clean though. Um, actually better than I expected. So this is actually not a bad result here. Let's see. Uh, you know what? We're gonna. So I actually resized it on my end back to here's what we'll do. There we go. Okay. show you that this works the way that I intend, um, so whenever you change a .h file, you're going to have to make clean. Because there's a good chance that changing one macro ends up changing it for a lot, and this, if you attempt to like run or build the game under those conditions, uh like if you only build one part of it. All right, let me move this window over here. And now I can sit next to my dog. I serve her water. I serve her breakfast and din din. I give her snacks like twice a day. Um, what else? Hey, what's cooking, Dulce? Glad to see you. It's time we get the show on the road. There's a Pirate Software game jam in a couple days, and kind of excited about that because it's going to be an opportunity to meet an opportunity for me to take a stab at something new. I feel like I kind of have a good workflow. I need to readjust my screens. Excuse me. There we go. Okay, we got to resume chat over here. Okay. Hope everyone's having a good day today. It is mañana. Not mañana. That's not fucking Monday in Spanish. I don't know Spanish. I'm like, es ist Montag. Ja. Du sprichst Deutsch. Meine Deutsch ist nicht so gut, ja. Who is GMTK? There's so many YouTubers out there. Like, you can never know all of them, right? A friend of mine took a look at my subscriber list, like the list of channels that I'm sub to, and I took a look at his, and there were so many people. I had no. He was expecting me to like recognize more people than I did, and it's like, yo, I'm an old man now. You come at me 10 years younger than me with like our interests, while they cross over, like there's generational gaps in types of content consumed and ways to okay, game maker. Okay, I can talk about game maker for a minute. Like, I really haven't used it myself, but I know someone who has made multiple things in game maker. Someone who claims not to be a programmer, and yet they are still skilled enough to put things together. And I'm not going to knock anybody for their preferred choice of tool, because at the end of the day, this dude's made more stuff than I have, and he's done it in very creative ways. Um, like as an example, he made his own graphics by taking like tinfoil and making like a fake suit of armor that he wore while walking on like a treadmill. And he videoed himself. And then he took the still frames from that video and he did it from like behind a green screen. And he turned this into a 2D walking animation. So what's the difference between Game Maker, the engine, and the Game Maker toolkit? The one thing that I don't know that y'all have seen yet is well, for one, my keyboard mouse is not working because I actually spilled coffee all over one of my fucking DOS keyboards yesterday. Um, it upsets me because cleaning that bitch is gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm glad I got a backup. That particular keyboard's been overdue for a full ass cleaning for a long time now, but I'm also afraid that liquid damage could have could impact certain things, but I'm gonna have to decap that whole motherfucker, clean it the fuck out. I kind of want to film it. Oh, that's cool. Well, the timing is inconvenient because Pirate Jams takes place over a 2 week period, so I believe that there will be some overlap. Like the Game Maker Toolkit Jam is going to occur towards the very end of the Pirate Software Jam. The nice thing about the Pirate, so I mean, it's totally possible that Game Maker's also doing it, or the GMTK group is doing it through Itch, but Pirates was easy enough because I already have an Itch account. I already have a presence there, and all I had to do was like click one button to join it. It is deceptive. You're absolutely right. It makes it a little bit confusing. Um, Getting in on the Game Maker name early was a very smart move for that group or that company. I can't really say same for GMTK since it's a little bit confusing for those of us who are aware of Game Maker, the tool. Nice, nice. Okay. Well, this presents a problem for anyone who actually wants to participate in these sorts of things. But at the same time, the easiest way is to just pick one and do it, right? Like, I've been aware of stuff like Ludum Dare since 2011, and I've wanted to do something since then, but also at the same time, like I realized like there were a lot of things that I had to get into a workflow for in order to even approach this as a possibility. Like, there's a certain order of operations that I've done in order to get to this point. And one of those orders of operations, like, hold on. Okay, now I got keyboard and mouse, so I can, I hate using the mouse. I got this one little command that I can use to turn my numpad into a mouse. And you notice that I've got very smooth left-right action going on. Like, y'all can't left-right nearly as smooth as I can. I got fucking shaky hands and shit. I got fucking carpal tunnel. I got osteoarthritis. You can't be asking me to do some mouse shit without me trying to figure out a way to make shit easier. Because the mouse fucking sucks. Real talk. So what was I doing? Oh, right. I was gonna maybe full screen this for y'all. Um, like this over here. There we go. Now, whenever I unfull screen it, it still remains full screen for y'all. Because one of the problems that some of the early testers gave me feedback on was, I guess they were playing the game on a really widescreen monitor, or one person was playing it on a really wide screen, and the other was playing on like a really small screen. So at the moment, I'm locking the camera, right? Or I mean, how should I say this? Ideally, the player doesn't have to fuck with the camera too much. And ideally, they can focus on just playing the game. They don't have to fuck around with changing where the camera's located. Like, and even still, to like kind of facilitate this like really rapid fire gameplay, um, perhaps the dungeon floors themselves should be rather small, you know? Um, this is like a 16 by 12, I think. I need to update the camera offset. Okay, so that's the far edge. And at this particular resolution, like, so left bracket zooms in, right bracket zooms out. This is very Dwarf Fortress style. Um, I have the ability to lock the camera on, but what I'm getting at is that, like, maybe I don't want you to have to, like, look around the whole map or have a really big map that you have to, like, do a whole lot of, like, extra eyeballing through. Because you're still going to have to eyeball, but the faster I can make you eyeball, the better. But one of the key goals today, like, I've been putting it off for a while. I need to fucking do it. So we gotta get some basic stats in, and we gotta get the ability to equip weapons and have, like, a sort of inventory again. Because we have sword entity, we have weapon entities just sitting in front of us, waiting to be picked up. Now I kind of want to sit back at the desk. Damn it. The order that I have to do things in. What do I do? We have a lot of components that we're handling and we're currently not using. We actually have boxes too. I forgot about that. We actually got basic Sokoban mechanics working last time. Um, to demonstrate that, here's our boxes. Not only that, but enemies can push boxes too. So why would we need to push boxes? Um, the boxes can be arranged in ways that can effectively create like puzzles. And in combination with other things that I plan on implementing, such as floor, like, what do you call it? Like pressure plates. You push something onto a pressure plate to activate it, or step on top of it to activate it. And then when you step off of it, it deactivates. So we'd be able to use these box mechanics in combination with that to do things like wire these pressure plates to like doors and things like this. So let's work on getting these things wired up. So that's right. So we have all those components defined already, but we have to actually implement like where like once you attach a component, like once you register a component on an entity, we have to, what should I say? Like we have all these unordered maps. Hey, Dope. Welcome to the stream. As I was saying, every time we come up with like a new component, effectively like the simplest component that you can think of is an association of entity ID to like integer, for instance. And while we haven't done that, actually Boolean's really the easiest one. Direction T is an integer, so this like is how like you can keep track of what direction an entity happens to be facing if it happens to need a facing direction, for instance. Like all NPCs are going to have a direction facing pretty much. Similarly, location list. So this is actually each component is a vector of XYZ to let you know which floor and at what XY that entity happens to be at. And this should always correspond with like, because there's a difference between this value and like the fact that the tile in the dungeon has a vector of entity IDs, and that vector should contain the same entity that has this position in its list. There's not really a lot of verification that goes back and forth between the two, but whenever an entity moves, we update both its location in the location list and which tile it happens to be stored in. Race list is an integer, so race type is literally just a enumeration of different races. Entity type, similarly, also just an enum. We actually created a whole type for wooden box. Effectively, it should really be like just box, though. And then, like, later on, we can have different material types. I may have already began planning on that. No. Okay. We're going to create we're going to start with the components for stats. All NPCs are going to have a set of certain stats. Question is how we actually store those stats. I realize now too, each one of these could be a shared pointer to an unordered map, but I'm not about to go through and change all those. Okay, so we were previously maintaining a thing called stat slot, which probably fine here. Question of do I want to do a whole stat slot for like all the stats, or do we want to like individually register each stat? And I don't think we want to do that. I think we actually want to I think we actually want to have a whole array or vector, one of the two. And actually, the stats thing itself could also be an unordered map. Seems to be okay with that. Now, when we go to create the whoa, that's not right. Valuable contribution to the chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. They're kind of suggesting that I use a vector. but they're still doing it that way. New Superman. I think I only recently heard that there was a new Superman movie the other day. I literally don't give a fuck about like most modern movies. Real talk. I hope it was good. I heard it was good, so I hope it was good. I can't say that I've actually watched a Superman movie. I almost feel like I would have to go back and watch the old ones. Like if I were gonna watch them at all. I mean, we can't just like fucking put a list of goddamn integers. See, that just doesn't work because uh they let me declare it here. Why the fuck? Why the fuck wouldn't they allow me to Oh yeah, well there's nothing like the movie theater experience, I'll give you that. Some of my best childhood memories are going to the movie theater with friends. Okay, we're gonna have to change this to I'm gonna see if I can't try out setting up a new component using shared pointers. Um, so let's undo what we have here for a moment. What was your favorite thing about the new Superman movie? Why do you feel like it was so good? Talk about the action sequences, the direction, the filmography, the casting. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can dig into. I grew up with like when I played D&D as a teenager, like a lot of my friends were like super big film heads, and I think they were like way more critical of movies than I was. Like I was really easy to satisfy, and there is a very strong distinction between old and new movies. I'm not sure what it is, but there is nothing like analog film. Right, so right, so I'm going to start off with a shared pointer. Yeah. What's the type of this shared pointer? This shared pointer points to an unordered map of type entity ID and then pointing to another shared pointer. This time, type vector. Oh, and the vector is of course of type int. That's pretty gross. Look how fucking awful that looks. Okay, so knowing that that's what it is, g pointing to the stats list is now equal to, oops, make shared, and actually first, now one of the benefits of this is that when we actually kill the game state object, we don't have to manually free this anymore. I mean, we could definitely empty it, or we could, yeah, we could just straight up empty it whenever the time comes. Um, Actually, we don't even have to do that. So it should just automatically do it all for us. So now, whenever we go to add a new entity, we will have to make shared on that slot in the map in order to properly assign the new thing. All right, so let's start with add stats. So for the add stat, see what Copilot has to say. No, we don't have a stats component. Foolish. We might even consider making it actually a map, like an unordered map. Or it could be an ordered map. Okay. It doesn't like that. Oh yeah, but wait, no. Hmm. We actually managed to. It's pretty ugly. So far, so good. All right, we are level 666. So to reflect this, we want to show it in the HUD when we're in the game, right? Can't really see it because of the itch.io text up here. But we want city 666 right here. And we should have the infrastructure to make that happen now. There we go. Player has level again. All entities have a stats vector now. Maybe in the near future, I'll redo the components to be all shared pointers like that. Let's go and save this much. What build number are we on? All right, what's next? We still got to get that stuff equipping, right? So while stats, I aggregated into a single data structure. For individual pieces of equipment, different NPCs may or may not be able to equip certain things. For instance, there might be an NPC with no hands. Like, I could totally see it possible as like an attack dismembering a dude or something to a point where he's like no longer able to equip something, or maybe even there's just like a monster out there, like a tentacle monster who has like way too many hands and may be able to equip more than one, or something like that, right? So in the beginning, and I'm not going to allow things as complicated as specifying like which hand equips what. We'll do that in a future game. I might need to get some more coffee here in a minute. But at the very least, we need like an equipped weapon component. Oh, we have not defined an equipped weapon component yet. I think originally that was part of something called equipment. So changing that to equipped weapon. Remember, not all NPCs will be able to have an equipped weapon. Um, Still good. So when we walk on top of a tile, previously we had mechanics to actually pick items up, and they would show up in your inventory. I'm trying to simplify the workflow of actually playing the game. And we would certainly want the player to be selective with what they're picking up. We don't want to encourage like mindlessly grabbing items and then having to like sort through a fucking crazy inventory, right? That doesn't sound very fun. Like one of my big rants lately has been about like how much time it takes to manage inventory. Like So many games, this is just expected. It's just like fucking Tim Kaine had a whole ass video about list inventory versus grid inventory, and I'm thinking, why not no inventory? Like, is there a way that we can avoid having to force the player into a position where they're having to like drop items in and out of their inventory like a whole lot of times? But at the very least, in the very beginning, when you walk on top of an item and press the pickup button, we check to see what the type of that item is. And if it's weapon, we can, if you have no weapon equipped, equip the weapon. And then if you have a weapon equipped and you pick up a weapon again, we could swap out the weapon you just picked up with the weapon that you have in your inventory, or rather equipped, right? So at the moment, there's like effectively only one inventory slot, and it's just for what weapon you have equipped. Because, like I was saying, not all NPCs will be able to equip things. So, getting this down to a fine level of granularity will mean that certain entities will be able to equip things and others won't. So, like, question is what key? See, the attack button is currently apostrophe. So semicolon could be pick up item. I started playing with mouse stuff a while ago and I'm backtracking on it for the moment. It's just too much little nuances that I have to work through. Mm, now I think about it, I'm not sure that boxes should be able to push each other. You know, side thought. Like I said, I need some more coffee here soon. Um, oh, I see the problem there. thing I wanted to do, I'm going to do before I forget about it. Recycling messages. Oh shit, I gotta pee. Alright, time to get some more coffee too. Alright, I'm back. Okay. Let's see here. Equipment. Equipping weapon. Cycle messages. There we go. It's a bit cleaner. So equipment, right? Hold on. Oh shit. Wrong there. Okay, so far so good. So whenever we're going to cycle messages, I even max measure that. We always max length of message. Generally speaking, if I keep the font size small for the HUD as well as the message history, I should be able to like have a reasonable cap where like it's gonna look ugly as fuck if we have to do a bunch of like taking like a really long string and then splitting up in multiple lines. You know what I mean? Like, I want to keep things really simple. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time on that kind of shit. Future games will have more advanced yada yada. We want to make sure that we can just start stepping forward. So this is a little optimization step that I'm doing for drawing the box behind the message history, because every message that you receive could be longer than the last. And so we need to like update the size of the box every so often, right? However, we don't have to like calculate this value on every single fucking frame. That's ridiculous. That's so computationally retarded. I can say that. I can say the word retarded. You can't cancel me. Already been canceled. Uncanceling. So like over here in draw message history, right? Like this gets called literally just about every few frames or so, right? Like when it detects that there's a change, we mark the frame as dirty and then we update it, right? So this is like updating as often as we need to update frames. And so that means this loop is executing that many times, which is retarded. It's beyond retarded. So we're going to fix that. We're going to make it better. So like this, like instead of doing that, then like at the beginning of the game, the message history is empty. So the first time that we add something to it, that 0 value is going to be in there. So the first message that we add is going to be greater than that value. So we can just update that value, right? And then every time we add one new message to the history, like every time we have to cycle a message that we've received, this will get run. So this will get run a lot less than having to do like a whole fucking loop every single goddamn time, right? Sometimes you just get things in there just to get them to work, but they're really stupid in how they operate. As I've always adhered to, and this manifests amongst a number of different content creators in one way or another, is that your code doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to get the thing working. You just have to do something before you can go back and make it better. Now, this is not to say that like good design is not important, but even with initial planning, even with trying to think out all the things, you know, you could spend a very long time doing this without ever writing a single line of code. And then in the process of development, you run into problems that you did not anticipate in your design. And these are problems that you would not have encountered until you go through the steps of actually building the thing. So while this is not like a hyper big problem because the game still runs at 60 FPS, as a good programmer and computer scientist, I look at this and I go, ew, that's not right. I gotta fix that. Even though it's not anything that's like functionally visible or forward facing to the player, to me as a developer, as a coder, this matters. This emotionally affects me, right? Like that's why I'm doing this. It makes me happy to say that out loud. So when we go to update the longest string, right? Like we're keeping track of the number of characters because liblogic doesn't have access to raylib, right? I mean, it might. Yeah, it does. But I've gone out of my way to like separate the drawing functions from the logic of the game. And so, because this is kind of like one of those in-between states where like we're passing information from one system to another about what needs to get cached in between frames so that we're not constantly recomputing something. So whenever we cycle messages, we update what the longest message in the history list is. And we can take that information now, go over to libdraw, and instead of using max measure, and instead of having to like compute this whole thing, max measure now equals message history max length message. No, wait. No, what we need to do here is actually fabricate this measure somehow, right? Maybe we actually do want to do the calculation over in liblogic. Fuck it. So measure text. And actually, you could even optimize this further by actually using the length field as well. Actually, we know that the measure would be different there, so we don't have to do the if statement. Oh no, Dulce. See, that's the kind of shit I'm afraid of. Actually, I've had to block off the electrical outlets to my to where my UPS is plugged into, because my cat likes to play with everything, and more than once not only has managed to turn off, or I actually pressed the restart button on my computer, but also the other day began trying to like pull the plug out of the wall in the middle of me doing shit. Thankfully it's a UPS, and so it did its job. Because the connection to the wall was severed, the UPS like system kicked on, and I managed to actually still have a running system, even though it was unplugged from the wall. I think it gave, like, the readout on the front said there was like 30 minutes worth of power, and very thankful for that. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot to be desired with the setup here, and very sorry to hear your recently installed fiber line got chewed through. If it was just the cable, then that's something that you can actually swap out yourself. But if it's something else, a thin wire. See, like, I've got the cable coming out of my wall, and that's screwed into the router. And then I've got an Ethernet going from the router into the wireless. Sorry, I said that wrong. No, the cable's going into the modem, and there's Ethernet going into the router, the wireless router, and the wireless router is plugged in. It's got an Ethernet going to a network switch, and that network switch I have my desktop plugged into. And actually what I should be doing is plugging the Ethernet into my UPS, because the UPS actually has a thing. And actually I should be plugging the wireless router into that, and then that into the switch, and then the switch into my desktop. That's what I should be doing. The actual fiber line. Isn't that something that's like outside? Like, how the fuck do they get access to the fiber line? Like what kind of exposed ass setup are you rolling with, where your cat was able to get to something that every single time I've had like internet installed, like wouldn't be something, you know? Like, I'm just questioning your setup there. Considering it just rained, it is bright ass sunny outside. So, my dog just woke up. We gotta go do some business real quick. Goes through my wall to the modem. Yeah. I've got Spectrum also. Shout outs to Spectrum for giving me the kick-ass internet that I'm using to stream right now. Alright, BRB. Okay, we're on the couch again. Got my girl next to me. Nano, no, don't eat that. Nano, no, that's a very expensive charging cable. Sir, come here. Come here, buddy. No, 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 don't look at that. He loves fucking with my cables. I'm thankful that he hasn't chewed through anything yet. But actually, I think he might be the reason why my webcam has been acting funny lately. Let's see. Okay. A little optimization here. So if I'm correct, this should actually still work the exact same way as it did before. To really test it. Okay, well, it worked exactly as I expected. But you can ultimately see like the problem here, right? Like for maximum efficiency, this is probably going to be like the longest message that we'll be able to fit. I'm real sorry to hear about your cable, Dulce. Every time I read your name, I keep thinking of the word sweet in Spanish. I know you explained that it's a Latin phrase, but my brain just... Why does it that like this is like a pattern? How there's so many people who like come into a chat and then ask you to chat instead because their headphones aren't working. It's like, well, maybe you should get some new fucking headphones. Because when you come on the stream and you expect someone to completely stop what they're doing just to like fucking answer your dumbass question, like if you haven't been paying attention, you wouldn't ask such a fucking stupid question to begin with. God damn. People like that fucking piss me off. In fact, I'm straight up banning your ass for even asking. How dare you? How dare you waste my fucking time? Enjoy the ban, bitch. Maybe you don't understand how your question is retarded or rude or wasting my time, but obviously. Like, all you have to do is pay attention, and the question is answered. But if you just show up somewhere out of nowhere, and you're like, not even paying attention to the history, then I'm not sure what the point of the question is or where it's going, because I'm trying to like do some game dev here because it's my passion, and you're over here trying to waste time asking me if it's my passion instead of like trying to keep me focused, and instead you want to draw me away from the point. I don't like that. I like getting shit done, and we're getting shit done here. Now that we've optimized the message history, I think the last thing I can force myself to get done here today, or I really need to take a break and eat and all that good shit, is Oh, so what I was getting at was like, I almost feel like it's like some sort of coordinated scam when people do that, because this isn't the first person to come in and say almost those exact fucking words. Hello, my headphones aren't working right now. Can you chat instead? No, I can't because my hands are fucking occupied. You'd be able to notice if you had some fucking headphones. Do you think me chatting with you more important than this? You better be paying me. In fact, you should be signing up for the Patreon, which is $5 a month. In addition to that, you should also give me $5 for the game so that you can encourage development. Because otherwise, you know, I appreciate you watching me. Definitely give me as many viewer hours as you can. And pretty soon I'm going to give y'all a link for the Discord so that, you know, y'all can communicate and chat over there too, and I have an opportunity to find all these bots trying to fucking bait me and shit. Okay, good. The question is, what is the end goal of these scammers who say that their headphones aren't working? Because I tell you right now, I've had more than one person try to like draw me into a conversation where they try to sell me stuff. Like, apparently there's all these hustlers out there trying to get you to get like custom Twitch overlays and shit like that. I get it, the job market's tough, but I ain't the person to be trying to sell that shit to. I remember I've reworked how tiles work a little bit. So for the tile, um, like we're attempting to pick up an item on whatever tile we're currently on. So we have to loop through. think this is a good start, right? Like, let's see what Copilot's got to say. No, that's incorrect. Okay. Okay, to start with, basic, this is like what we would do, right? Ooh, deep cracks there. All right, let's see if this works, because probably take a break if it does. And being able to move the items around in the dungeon by equipping them and unequipping them would at least be a good proof of concept. You know, for what I'm aiming for here is a very segmented system where we can be very specific instead of like globbing together a bunch of different slots for all of your equipment and all of your stuff. Let's do it very piecemeal. Uh-oh. 2308. Oh. Let's see if this works. Oh, right, we're not actually calling it yet. Whoops. Wait. I mean, he's picking up the sword, for sure. We have no message demonstrating what we picked up, though. And whenever I go over... one of these other tiles. You can see the order of drawing changes. So something is happening underneath the hood, just not what I want. But it's adding tile add with ID 0. Oh, I see what's happening underneath the hood. Ish. So, like, it didn't break out of the loop during this. Oh, we gotta update its location too. Shit. So whenever we're adding something to a tile, like an entity, we're gonna also have to update that entity's position. That's very unusual. So there's some discontinuity between where the tiles are at. And their position. So that's a bug to fix. Not a big deal. Okay, now we've got it working. Now we got it working. Now we can really, truly, deservedly So the next big thing, now that we can actually equip weapons again, and I'm going to save this for the next stream, is we have to update the way that we're drawing. So as a preview, you've got a handful of functions here that we're going to have to get working again. Because the way that equipment gets layered onto an NPC when being drawn is through some additional functions. Because the way that the assets are loaded in a way that allows for things to be layered together, so long as you get the drawing order correct and you manage the states right, you can actually achieve some really nice animation effects. let's checkpoint. I'll probably end up leaving the stream running while I eat. I kind of take a break and I'll leave the music running. I want to keep working. I recognize I'm gonna have to eat, charge up. Maybe I won't leave it running. Maybe I'll just start again later on. And my dog says it's time to take a break, y'all. Thanks for joining, everyone. I appreciate it. Of course, as usual,